Happy Monday! It's the Prop Queen Pod taking you for the next hour, talking all things college football national championship. I actually saw a very good point about this being on a Monday, by the way. Casey Smith from Barstool posting something that I really agreed with, and I'm not even a huge college football fan. We've got NBA bets as well. So today on the show, Josh Graham making his Prop Queen Pod debut. He works with Westwood One. If you don't know what Westwood One is, it is literally talking all about it's the radio station that has all the games on it. He is a host for Westwood One, and he is going to give us some college football playoff action, some college football natty bets. 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, as always. Jared Block from Trinity Analytics going to join the show. He's going to tell us NBA bets for tonight, and we'll also do an early look at the NFL slate for the championship round coming up this weekend. A lot going on in the coaching carousel. Craig Abel, we're going to get to the news now about Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott gets fired. The Bills lost in the divisional round yet again. A heartbreaker, of course. It was a terrible, heartbreaking game. You can argue that some calls the refs made on Saturday were wrong. You can argue that we still don't know what the hell a catch is in the NFL. Regardless, we have now seen the trend of the Ravens, the Bills. When you have franchise quarterbacks that are MVPs in their prime, you watch other teams do it with lesser quarterbacks. You watch the Chiefs do it consistently, minus this year. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson still combine for 0 Super Bowl appearances. We're not even talking wins. We're talking Super Bowl appearance. 3 MVPs between them and 0 Super Bowl appearances. It's not good. I know that we can't say Saturday was completely the Bills' defense's fault. Of course, Josh Allen played probably one of his worst games of his career, especially in a big moment. The Bills are not anywhere close to being in the divisional round of the playoffs without Josh Allen. So we had one bad game, but that's the problem with the Bills. Josh Allen can't have a bad game. When you have a good defense, your quarterback is allowed to have a bad game because your defense can pick you up. Sean McDermott's a defensive-minded coach whose defense could never save Josh Allen from a bad day. I'm not saying that Josh Allen doesn't deserve to take some of the blame for that loss on Saturday. He absolutely does. I'm just saying it makes a ton of sense that the Bills had to move in a different direction. It wasn't working. McDermott's fault, Joseph Rodriguez? And sure, you could blame the GM too. I think they said outside of Josh Allen, there's 6 years that the Bills GM has been there, and he has 2 Pro Bowlers ever. So of course the GM definitely at fault because you're not giving Josh Allen great tools on offense anyway. Of course they thought maybe it'd be what's his name? Gabriel. That's not even there anymore. A young kid. They thought he would be the next big thing. He wasn't. And then it was Khalil Shakir, who is good, but is he a number one? Maybe not. What bothers me, Gabe Davis. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you. Gabe Davis. So what bothers me about Sean McDermott as a head coach and why everybody is like, oh, should Baltimore go for him? No, because if your defense as a defensive-minded coach can't hold anybody, can't stop anybody, and I know it was overtime, I know it was a back and forth and defenses get tired, but the Bills don't come up with the big stop either. They never were able to stop Mahomes. Maybe they did technically stop the Ravens last year, but it really should have been a catch. Mark Andrews dropped the ball. They almost blew that one too. When you're a defensive-minded coach, you shouldn't be blowing leads like that. And that's the thing. The Baltimore Ravens, their head coach was a special teams coordinator, John Harbaugh. Their defensive coordinator sucked, Zach Orr. And that's why their defense fell to the ground when McDonald's left for Seattle. I did see the odds for the next Bills head coach. It looks like Brian Daboll's favored to go back to Buffalo and be their head coach. Listen, I think that there's definitely when a coordinator and a quarterback get along, it goes a long way. Joe Flacco and Gary Kubiak won a Super Bowl together. Hands down, that was because of Kubiak. But Brian Dabble being head coach when he was blowing leads in New York for the Giants, going to go to a team now that has been blowing close games. It just doesn't make sense. Sure, make him your offensive coordinator. I don't know if I like that move for Dabble to go to the Bills. I don't know. I like Clint Kubiak. I know that he's been up in discussion as well for the Ravens head coaching job. For the Ravens head coaching job, Jesse Minter seems to have taken the lead in multiple polls, in multiple odds boards. Jesse Minter, then Clint Kubiak. You know, I'm actually shocked that Kalshi has Robert Saleh as the third because I thought maybe it'd be Flores. It doesn't appear that Flores is really up there anymore. At first it was Flores, then it was Minter, then it was Flores and Minter. Now Ravens Nation's hoping it's Jesse Minter. And then Clint Kubiak is right behind it. Jesse Minter is the Chargers defensive coordinator. I said this first of all, I don't want Robert Saleh as the next head coach of the Ravens. That is an absolute hell no. Did anybody watch Hard Knocks, the year of Aaron Rodgers? Robert Saleh fanboyed over Rodgers. He couldn't control him. If he couldn't control Aaron Rodgers, he's not going to be able to control Lamar Jackson. I want a defensive-minded coach, though. I do. So Saleh is a defensive-minded coach, but I just don't trust that he's going to be able to handle Lamar. Jesse Minter makes sense. Jesse Minter being a defensive-minded coach. The thing is, the Ravens need someone to really kick them in the ass. They need somebody to make them care again and learn to tackle again. So they do need a good defensive-minded coach because Lamar is going to be Lamar. As for the Bills, they've got Josh Allen. Very enticing job. I'm curious, in the coaching carousel world, who feels the job is most intriguing? Like Bills, Ravens, obviously the two most intriguing jobs if you want to take a team that's pretty much ready to win now. And it looks like outside of Clint Kubiak, they are at least going for very different coaches. The Bills should be going for a more offensive-minded coach. The Ravens should be going for a more defensive-minded coach. As soon as McDermott got fired last night, I said, or is it this morning? I don't know. It's been a long day. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. I hope that this doesn't hurt the Ravens' chances of getting a good head coach that they want. But then I'm realizing the Bills need to go for an offensive coach and the Ravens need to go for a defensive coach. So hopefully there is no competition between the two. Another job in the coaching carousel, Eric Bieniemy is back in Kansas City. Looks like he's going to be their OC again. Matt Nagy's out of contract in the head coaching mix. Kansas City plans to bring back Bieniemy. That's scary. I mean, again, Bieniemy has failed pretty much, I feel like, everywhere else outside of Kansas City, so good for him. I don't know if you guys saw this yesterday. I posted this on social media. You know how, like, the NFL with their graphic, the logo for the Super Bowl, it always is, like, the colors, and everyone's trying to dissect the colors of the Super Bowl logo, and if they're trying to write the script and tell us the story and who's going to be the Super Bowl team. Well, the NFL already told us, except there was an injury to Bo Nix. But if you look at this graphic, look at who's leading, then look at who's behind, and look who's behind that. You've Bo Nix in the front, Drake May right behind him, with Stafford and Darnold to the right and left. That's your 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are your top 4 teams left in the NFL playoffs. Then behind them, you have the teams that were just eliminated. Like, they literally wrote the script. It's insane. Like, they just keep throwing little things at us, but nobody ever realizes until it's too late. The question is, does Jarrett Stidham have this, like, incredible run? Did we ever expect that Jarrett Stidham was going to be in a revenge game against his former team, the New England Patriots? That was the narrative for the AFC Championship. This is a wild NFL playoffs. But honestly, I am very glad that the Rams beat the Bears. They need some big market team. Because if we had and I know the Bears are Chicago, but I feel like it doesn't do it as much as like LA. I don't know. I didn't really because now at least you've got the Rams, Seahawks, the AFC, you got the Patriots and the Broncos, but like we all know that it would have been the AFC team. And if it's like Seahawks, Broncos, oh, Jesus. But my survivor's still alive and well, so that's great. I'm going to bring on my really good friend making his Prop Queen Pod debut. He's a sports talk host for Westwood One Sports, where you can find a lot of these games broadcasted on the radio, and you can find him on the late night. I've been on the show, and I couldn't be more proud to call him one of my good friends because he has grinded through the entire media landscape, and he got the big break just a short while ago. He finally got his big break to be on national radio, Westwood One. Josh Graham joining the show. What's up, Josh?
Ariel Epstein, it's so good to be with you. I wish I had saw that graphic in advance. Think it could have helped a great deal figure out a lot of these things, but this is why you're the prop queen. You're always finding the angles that we all should have been keeping an eye on.
The NFL has been a little wild, and at least prop-wise, it's been going well for me. Before we get to the college football playoff, national championship game tonight, which I know you focus a lot on college sports, NFL coaching carousel, I need a non-biased opinion. Mm-hmm. Which job, if you were in the coaching carousel, would you be more intrigued by, Baltimore or Buffalo?
Probably Buffalo, because I have no reason to believe that Josh Allen is getting towards that point where he's going to see serious decline. I am based in North Carolina, and I saw this movie before. It was 8 years in. The Panthers missed the playoffs in 2018, and we were told, hey, you can't trade that guy. He took you to the playoffs last year, the former MVP. And we just don't have a lot of track record for someone with a lot of wear and tear who had been missing games here and there for a few years, playing well beyond year 10. So with Lamar, there's more concern about longevity because of some of the injury concerns than with what we've seen with Josh Allen. But these are both top tier jobs when you have access to the quarterback. So it's picking between supermodels. It's not necessarily a shot at the Ravens if you pick the Bills, and that's how I view it. But I would give the edge to Buffalo.
Kelly just sent me some random ass thing, and I don't know if it's true or not, but there are rumors swirling apparently that they were looking at potentially trading Lamar Jackson to Vegas. Mm-hmm. I don't think that that's true, because if they were going to trade Lamar Jackson, they wouldn't have probably gotten rid of John Harbaugh.
Well, you could do the complete reboot maybe, but I'm with you.
That sounds horrible.
Well, they weren't. I'm with you. I think it would have been one of the other. I think you would have rebooted with Harbaugh or rebooted in hopefully a short-term context of contending with Lamar Jackson. And I think both teams kind of view it the same way. You get rid of Sean McDermott because you feel that you can win a title next year with a different coach. Mm-hmm. You get rid of John Harbaugh because you feel that you can still have a window of success, championship contending with Lamar Jackson. So I'm with you.
We did get breaking news, but I'm not going to make you talk about it because I want to talk college football playoff.
Hold one second though. Does it involve a team that rhymes with Miami Schmolfins?
Yeah, why you want to talk about the Packers defensive coordinator?
I took so much heat last week for saying that this is who the Dolphins were going to hire the moment.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
Because our next guest is a Packers fan. So I was like, I'll just ask Jared. But okay, go for it. I didn't know that you wanted this to be the decision.
So John Eric Sullivan was hired to be the new GM in Miami, and Jeff Hafley came from the same place he did. And on top of that, had head coaching experience at Boston College, a number of times dealing with him. He was great in the NFC South as a defensive coach in Tampa. I think he also had ties, oddly enough, to Cam Newton when he was at Auburn. Jeff Hafley, this was trending this way for a while, and I think it's key that this hire was made today because he was set to interview with the Titans as one of their 3 finalists tomorrow, but the Dolphins were not compliant with the Rooney Rule until they did an interview earlier today. So there kind of was this view in Miami, in order for John Eric Sullivan to get his guy from Green Bay, they kind of had to get it done today before Hafley, out of fear of losing him, got on a plane to Tennessee. This is the theme. Maybe it's because it's trendy with Mike McDonald having the season he had in Seattle, but this really does feel like the cycle of the defensive coach. The defensive coach is back in the NFL.
Well, it should be, because we've realized no matter how great your quarterback is, if your defense can't hold the opposing quarterback, then you're going to lose the football game. Sean McDermott, Baltimore Ravens, big problem not being able to hold the opposing QB. Let's talk about tonight. I want to get college football playoff action in. We've got the Natty tonight. You know me, I don't really handicap college football, which is why I got to bring on the pros, the people that do know a lot about the sport. How come you're so high on Miami tonight?
I think Curt Cignetti, I think just naturally, we love a good story. And Curt Cignetti in Indiana, with the way they've won the last couple of weeks, they've kind of brainwashed us a little bit from deviating from what's always been true in college football, that talent matters so much more than coaching. This is why Bill Belichick is one of the greatest coaches in NFL history, but at North Carolina this past year went 4-8. Because it turns out if you don't have talent, it doesn't matter how good of a coach you are. Curt Cignetti is kind of the way that Indiana's winning. It's making us think differently about these things, because with a lot of players who came from the group of five, you're talking about 9 players on this roster who are 2 stars or fewer, while Miami has 9 4 or 5-star players. You talk about 2 5-stars on Miami, no 5 stars on Indiana. There's no question that Miami is the more talented team. And because of the way that Indiana has worked Alabama and Oregon, 2 incredibly flawed teams the last few weeks, you have a heavy public side in Indiana. I don't know if it's because they are such a great story and we want to believe in it, or the fact that they're have the largest alumni base in America with 800,000 alums. But they were at 8.5-point favorite. That number is going down to 7.5 in some places. Don't think it's going to get to 7, but I think a lot of odds makers or a lot of money today is starting to come in on the Hurricanes, because people are starting to realize, wait a minute, if this game's going to be decided in the trenches, Miami has easily a better offensive line, and Miami might be the best defensive front that Indiana's faced all year, with 2 guys who might be first-round draft picks, including one that might be the first edge off the board in Ruben Bain, that could give the Heisman Trophy winner and presumptive number 1 pick Fernando Mendoza a lot of problems tonight.
So you trust Carson Beck?
It's a difficult question because
because every handicapper I speak to says, I just don't trust. No, I shouldn't say every. A lot of them. A lot of people start with, well, I don't trust Carson Beck. So now I'm like, okay, Josh, why are you okay with kind of backing him?
Because Indiana's base defense is in its own right exotic. Because they don't have the talent of a lot of the teams they play, it's such a commitment to system. They have to do so much stunting. They have to do so much exotic stuff. So much changing at the line of scrimmage. So many changing of picture post-snap. That's the way they've gotten a lot of quarterbacks who are inexperienced. And Carson Beck's been really good during the playoff. And the fact that he's an inexperienced quarterback, I like his chances, especially given he's top 10 in college football and getting the ball out, that it's not going to be sheer pressure that he has issues with. It's going to be how he reads a defense and what he reads pre-snap. And when Carson Beck has had issues this year, it's when Louisville's gotten in his face and SMU's gotten in his face and protection's been a problem. I don't think protection is going to be the issue. If Carson Beck loses this game for Miami, it's going to be because he's read things wrong. And given the fact he is so experienced, I'm less concerned about a quarterback making an improper read versus if the issue were his line being overwhelmed by so much pressure due to a talent disparity, which is not the case in this game.
We love some props. We'll go game prop first. First half under 23.5. How come defenses come out strong in the first half? Or is this that it might be messy in the first half offensively?
I think Indiana is going to have some issues with Miami. I think Miami's going to be without one of their starting corners for the first half of this game, Xavier Lucas, who got a targeting call in the second half of the semifinal. So this is something to keep an eye on Indiana's first series, whether or not their nickel is being used for coverage or being used to blitz. And I have a feeling that Miami's going to try to light up Fernando Mendoza, try to heat him up a little bit. And I think Indiana's going to have to adjust their tackles to this type of pressure they face. We do have a common opponent between the two, and that's Ohio State. And that was a slugfest for Indiana's offense. They didn't score a lot. I think they won that game 20-13, and some of that scoring came towards the end of the game. So I think from Indiana's end, there's going to be an adjustment period to this Miami offense. And from Miami's perspective, a lot of their scoring has been methodical. It's 10, it's 11 play drives. And I could see, especially missing a corner on defense, them trying to do everything they can to limit the amount of time Fernando Mendoza's on the field. So much so, I wouldn't be shocked if Miami wins the toss, if they decide to receive it, just so they could try to have one of these methodical scripted drives and limit the amount of time they're without one of their starting corners. So for a couple of those reasons, Miami's incentivized to slow things down in the first half, and Indiana's tackles are going to have an adjustment period against Miami's front. So I think 23.5. I would have loved it if it was 24, but 23.5 I still think is a good number.
How much does that handicap have to do with the CJ Daniels play over his longest reception?
Oh, I love CJ Daniels. This is the one guy that Miami, if you watch him play, they take shots to on the perimeter. So if they scheme up one of those bombs down the sideline, it's going to be to 7. And he's had electric plays throughout the year. They generally go to Tony on the bubble screens or underneath. But I have a feeling one of the best corners in football is Ponce for Indiana. He's the one that jumped that pick 6, the first play of the game against Oregon in the semifinal. He's very aggressive. And I wouldn't be surprised, maybe calling my shot here a little bit, if on the first series you script something that's a double move trying to get Ponce to jump at something, and then maybe a deep shot to Daniels down the sideline for a big play. They've also used him on crossers, on some crossers. And like we talked about with the exotic blitzes that Indiana likes to send, and they have to send extra guys with blitzes when they can't get there. If you catch one of these crossers while they're blitzing, a great opportunity for yards after catch as well. So I just thought that was too small of a number, since Tony's number is a little bit higher, and the fact that Daniels is used as a little bit more of a downfield threat.
This Carson Beck under 1.5 rushing yards, it's a little scary because all he has to do is make one nice little scramble. This goes over. So how come you're willing to take that risk?
I feel bad giving it because
I've done it before.
I've got it at -130, and it's kind of, I think people have kind of gotten onto it. Yesterday, I think I saw it was at -160. So I don't even mind. It's something that you might want to throw into a parlay if you want to kind of elevate it. Because in college, they kind of take advantage of the NFL betting public that doesn't realize that in college, sacks count against your rushing total. So he's been under that number 8 of 15 games this year. I think that he's going to be trying to get the ball out quick. Indiana might still get there a few times to him to keep that number under, but it's a little bit of a sucker bet to put it there. And Carson Beck had the rushing touchdown that was key against Ole Miss. So we're just going to fade that and understanding where some of the numbers tell us this is likely going to end up.
I love when Jessica comes in. She hasn't been here in a while, so welcome back, Jessica. She always gives us a lot of the best numbers that you could get in the market while we're live. Jessica will tell you, like, first half, you get the under 23.5 -106. CJ Daniels, you get at Hard Rock over 16.5 for the longest.
16.
reception.
Let's go.
-110. So if you want good numbers, check it out. Jessica's always helpful in making sure we get the best number. She is like an absolute, just like fiend, going through all the prop boards and seeing all the best numbers that we could possibly get. So you do believe, like, you're willing to take Miami money line today. You think they win outright? I know this game is down there in Miami. It helps a little bit, despite the fact that the tickets are still like $3,500 to get in the building. I mean, I guess final thoughts as to why you do believe not only that they cover, but that Miami upsets this Indiana team that people are saying is one of the best in history.
They would be if they win, and they're 16-0, and they'd have to earn it. But again, I think it's such an inflated view of what Indiana actually is, where Alabama probably shouldn't have been in the playoff. When they got whacked the way they did in the conference championship, the gripe that Notre Dame fans had wasn't that they should have been in over Miami. They lost a head-to-head to Miami after all. It's that they should have been in over Alabama, and Alabama never really looked the part in the playoff, even as they won against Oklahoma. And then Oregon, the fact they won 23-0 against Texas Tech, if you watch the game, Oregon wasn't all that impressive. That's more about Texas Tech and the conference they come from, not ever really being all that competitive from a conference championship standpoint. So really the measuring stick you have to look at for Indiana was, all right, how did they fare against Ohio State? And that was an incredibly close game. Miami has the common opponent, and Miami was more impressive against Ohio State, honestly, than Indiana was against Ohio State. I think that matters. I buy that games are won in the trenches, and I think Miami's better on the offensive and defensive line of these games. And I believe talent wins in college football. And I think Miami has more talent than Indiana does. And I'll say one more thing why this factors into the numbers that we're seeing. Curt Cignetti, I think a big part of the reason people buy so much of a coaching edge in this game is, yes, about what Cignetti has done, which is incredible, but it's also Mario Cristobal slander as well. Mario Cristobal has earned the reputation of not delivering at Miami in past years because he's lost games that he was supposed to win. The Georgia Tech game last year, just game management malpractice, and no one's saying otherwise. You lose to Louisville, you lose to SMU. But the knock on Cristobal shouldn't be that when he's playing top-tier competition, because go and look at his resume. 2023, you beat Clemson and A&M. 24, you opened the year with Cam Ward's coming out party by crushing Florida and hanging 40 on the road. And this year, you beat Notre Dame. You're 7-0 against ranked teams. And the other thing's this, with the number being 8.5 and going down to 7.5 in some places. The last time Mario Cristobal lost a game by more than that number, you have to go back to November of 2023. His last 8 losses with Miami have all been by one score. So the guy never gets worked. His team delivers when they play in the big games. And again, I think this is about reputation, because when you cut away the reputational ties to this, go with the talent, and the talent is with Miami.
When Ray Lewis is probably on the field, getting that Miami team all hyped up. Yeah, I would want to go win a natty too. It would be incredible, though, if Indiana finds a way to be one of the best teams in college football history. No one would have seen it coming. Josh Graham, you always see a lot of these crazy things coming, though, in the world of sports over at Westwood 1. Tell everyone where they can find you and what time your show is.
At Josh Graham Show. You can find me on X and on Instagram. Just started this venture, Westwood 1 Sports, with the likes of Jim Rome and Drake Toll and others. I'm on from 11 p to 3 a on the East Coast, 8 p.m. to midnight on the West Coast, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday during the week. So I'm on the weekends as well, Saturday, Sunday from 4 to 7 p.m. So make sure to find me and engage. We're on all the way across the country. Also, I think on Sirius 375, you can find the show as well. And thank you so much, Ariel, for having me. Hope you'll have me on again. Keep up the great work with PropQueen.com.
Absolutely. I loved having all the college football analysis. I need it because I don't do any of the handicapping myself for college football. Josh Graham, make sure to find him there and all his reactions every night, late night on Westwood 1. Good luck tonight with those bets, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
So Jared Block's joining the show in about a minute. I also do have my segment with Mid-Major Matt that was from Friday. And he told me, he's like, re-air that thing. Like, I still have my thoughts about the college football natty. So after Jared Block, I'm going to re-air the interview that I had with Mid-Major Matt so that we could talk more college football playoff props for the natty, like, of course, and game props, player props, sides, etc. Mid-Major Matt's got that broken down. I guess real quick before Jared hops on, Ariel, you would love the SEC world. That's where I only promise. No, I love football. I love college sports. This light's really bothering my eyes today. I love it, but I need a break. I can't handicap games 7 days a week. I need a break, and Saturdays are the day that I go and enjoy my life as opposed to 7 days a week. And remember, I do baseball. So many football people are football, college hoops. Some do a little NBA, and then they take off the summer. I don't get to take off the summer. I go crazy. I have a hair in my eye. I go crazy over the frickin' summer with baseball, and so does this next guest who comes on every Monday with me. We're counting down the days for baseball. Our football team's lost. Our football teams keep losing coaches, and that's why we're going to ask Jared R. Block from Trinity Analytics about how he feels with this move in Miami, because the Miami Dolphins have stolen your defensive coordinator. Jared, what was your first reaction about 2 seconds ago?
Yeah, my partner at Trinity, I told me the news, and I was like, great. I think that he I don't. Maybe he just got an offer he couldn't refuse. Maybe that's the deal. Nicer weather, obviously.
What
I
should
think that
Dolphins fans know about him?
he is extremely dedicated to the organization that he works for. I was confused because I was thrown off. I knew he would get head coaching offers and interviews, but his last press conference was like ahead of the Bears game was like, "You're going to see me back next week." And he was talking about Micah Parsons coming back next year. He said Micah Parsons was going to break the sack record next year with him as defensive coordinator. And then all of a sudden, poof, you're gone. But yeah, he obviously had the head coaching job at Boston College and had one of the best defenses in the country when he was there. He brought that same kind of style and single high safety stuff look to the Packers. And obviously that transformed what was our biggest Achilles heel for a very, very long time. And essentially the entire Aaron Rodgers era after the Super Bowl win. So yeah, I do think that he has the ability to turn things around. There's just, I think initially though, you have your work cut out for you, right? You have no idea if Tua's going to
Absolutely, which is why it's a little shocking. And I know
it's weird that he took this job. It's weird that he took this job.
I'm just like, when you have a rebuild, to bring in somebody who I guess is getting his first shot at an NFL head coaching gig, to have to do that rebuild is a lot to ask.
Yes, I would say.
But you have a connection to college football, and maybe you're good at transitioning them into the college football world.
That was my thing. Like, he was a college head coach, and he built a team from scratch that way. And again, the NFL's completely different. But yeah, I'm curious to see how it works out because it seems like you only have like one clear thing, and that is Devon Achane, right? So.
Yeah, well, we'll see what they do with that quarterback situation. I want to dive into the NBA tonight because even though the college football championship game is the big story of the night, there's still some action ahead for NBA, smaller slate because we had some afternoon for MLK Day. Nick Claxton over 8.5 rebounds. Why?
Yeah, this is a spot where the Nets are going to be down a couple of guys, notably Igor Demon, the point guard. You have Cam Thomas, who's going to sit tonight. And then Daron Sharp is out, the backup center, who's been getting quite a bit of usage off the bench recently. And honestly,
I covered him in high school when I worked in North Carolina. I have a picture with Daron. I actually have his phone number from his high school days. It's probably a different number now, but it's just so funny because he was recruited by Roy Williams, and we were at his high school basketball game when he was a junior, and Roy walks in with his wife. I'm like, oh, he's legit.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so he's been kind of outperforming Claxton as of recently, and he's out tonight. So I think this is a good opportunity to get in on the action for the rebounding spot. We know that the Suns have allowed the second most rebounds to centers over their past 7 games. They've been just giving up a lot of rebounds to big men in general, and this is one where I think you just trust the DVP. And on top of that, this is one of the better spots to get Nick Claxton playing 25 plus minutes, where that's been kind of up and down recently.
Yeah, you've got the Nets at home tonight catching 9 against the Phoenix Suns. The Pacers are catching 6 on the road at the 76ers. It's always a crapshoot with these Pacers as to which one we're going to go for, which one we're going to do. Who's going to be the play of the day? Because Siakam, his numbers now kind of regulated, especially if Matherin's out. We can't take advantage of that edge anymore. How come you're going Naismith?
Yep. Yeah, this is just a spot where the 76ers have been one of the worst teams in general to the shooting guard position just over the entire year. So whatever sample size you look at, it's really, really poor numbers. And I do think that isn't like a 100 to 100 translation when it comes to what Aaron Nesmith does. But as of right now, he's technically this team's 2/3 with Matherin out, right? And so that's kind of where I want to look at this. We also know that this is a spot where I do think that he's just going to have to play just an incredible amount of minutes. So if you look at him as a shooting guard, it lines up well. And if you look at Prop.Cash historical data, the 76ers are one of the worst teams against small forwards over their past 10 games. They've allowed 70% of small forwards to hit their markets. So however you look at it, I think there's a kind of a weird way to like it's been difficult from a DVP perspective because there are so many hybrid players, and I do think it's just one where you kind of lean into the Nemhard stuff today.
You're going to get Sean Michael all giddy that you're talking about his Detroit Pistons. I don't know if he'll like your plays or not because he tends to be a little bit harsh on people that talk about his Detroit teams. But let's see what Sean has to say. Pistons laying 3 at home against the Celtics, total 223.5. You've got the play on Cunningham and the play it on Duren. Why?
Yeah, this is a spot where the Celtics have been allowing a ton of above the break stuff. We'll get there when we talk about Cade, but in terms of Duren, they are just defending the center, but they're just letting centers kind of just score all over them recently. So I'm going to take advantage of that with the Duren stuff. It's a really, really bad rebounding stuff, so I wouldn't go points, rebounds. I would go just points for Duren. I know Detroit's been tough to cap recently because they've been one of the healthiest teams in the NBA, and they also have the ability to blow out teams any given night, and you kind of just saw that happen. So it's not going to look good from like any app. Obviously, we love props.cash, and it's not going to look good in terms of that because there's a lot of red all over the place. But this is a spot where I'm just believing that I do think that this game, number one, stays close, and number two, Duren can get there from a points angle. In terms of the Cade stuff, the Boston Celtics have allowed the most assists to point guards on the year as well as over their last 7 games, and that's a direct correlation to how many above the break threes they've been giving up. They are just as bad as the Utah Jazz and the Cleveland Cavaliers as of recent in terms of how many shots they allow from three-point range. And I do think that is interesting on many degrees, but it does make that a really easy correlation for Cade. And you can kind of imagine him getting their double-digit assists in that kind of situation. So I know Detroit just smashed in their last matchup and everybody fell short, but I'm pretty confident given the spread that this is one where they'll play a full allotment of minutes.
The last game of the night's really interesting. Golden State Warriors, they're at home tonight, laying 5.5 against the Miami Heat. You're going the Steph Curry route, but how come you're not going the Jimmy Butler revenge route?
Yeah, we saw it was a really poor sample, obviously, but we saw one game back in March of 2025 near the end of the regular season where they went into Miami and Jimmy Butler kind of laid an egg in that matchup. I still think it's a good one for Butler. Like, he's got a good paint scoring spot. But I do think this is one where you kind of get a little bit of everything for Steph here. You have a good spot for above the break threes in general for Steph, who's obviously a top 5 guy there. You have him kind of already coming in pretty hot on an assist angle. He's dished out 5 assists in 8 straight games. And you get a good rebounding spot on paper too. This is the biggest pace up spot for any team on the night card, as Miami obviously runs at the fastest pace in the NBA. We know this already. And we know that leads to more peripheral assists and peripheral rebound opportunities for him. So I think that Steph is in a very, very good spot. We've seen Miami just struggle against scoring point guards all year.
We had a question in the chat from King KT. Pods over or under 4.5 rebounds against Miami?
Yeah, I like the pod spot too. Not only is the Steph rebounding spot too good, it's a spot where Miami's just been a bottom 5 team in terms of allowing rebounds to guards. You also have to factor in that D'Anthony Melton is out. The hustle guy, Luis Santos, is out as well. And on top of that, I'm not sure if we get Draymond tonight. He was probable coming in, and he got tagged with a questionable downgrade about an hour ago. So that's never a good sign, especially in a spot like this.
Joseph Rodriguez brought up how there's no Tyler Hero tonight for Miami. He was saying Triple J overs. How would you take advantage of the Heat without Tyler Hero?
Yeah, scary injury. It's like a rib cartilage thing, and he's out for the foreseeable future. So I don't know if we see him again this year, which is not good. I think so he's talking about what do we do with Miami guys? What's the question?
Well, how are we going to handle no Hero?
Davion Mitchell is probable, so I expect him to play. Jaime Jaquez as well. So I do think we'll see Davion Mitchell slide back into the starting 5. It doesn't seem like Miami wants to play Khalil Ware and Bam together. And there's been some weird...
Thank God.
There's been some weird Ware comments about Eric Spoelstra too, so monitor that. But yeah, I do think Davion's going to play. It's not a great spot by any means. but we know that this is a good assist spot whenever Tyler Hero's out. Let me actually do this because I didn't.
I
get to
literally
check this one.
couldn't be more pissed, and you can do it and I'll rant. I couldn't be more pissed about the Khalil Ware situation. Bam Adebayo was such a great center to attack in games that were good for centers. Now, freaking Khalil Ware, who literally sucks at everything else except sometimes he steals rebounds from Bam Adebayo, it really pisses me off.
It's been weird to, because again,
And
that's
now
where
they
like the weird.
flip-flopped. It was like Bam was power forward and Ware was the center, but that didn't work. So now we have to go back to Bam being the center, but he's still sometimes the power forward. Like, no, Bam's the better player. It's like the Mitchell Robinson crap. Like, enough.
7+
Just ruined my
assists for Davion in 54% of games without Hero this year. That's obviously very strong sample. He's hit 6 in 75% of games. So this one's lined up pretty dang accurately. But when filtering by the road situation, that gives me a little bit more confidence. Mitchell, 7 assists in 11 of 14 road games without Tyler Hero this year. So yeah, and then you look at DVP. Pull that up really quick on my end. Last 7 Golden State assists, not great. They're allowing the 7th fewest to point guards. I can believe in the road stuff without Hero. I also I hope that they slide Davion and don't go with the Khalil Ware experiment again because it didn't really work out to start the year.
No.
I would assume that would be the case where they just put Davion in there 1-for-1, but the DVP doesn't really add up. I'd probably stay away from him tonight.
Let's get ahead of the market in the NFL and talk early NFL props coming up for championship weekend. There are a few markets that you had interest in, starting with the Ramondre Stevenson over his longest rush. How come he's going to have a long rush in this game on the road against the Denver Broncos?
Yeah, recently, I'm just going to switch over from NFL to NBA here. So opening up on the week, there have been, he's the longest rush leader. There's only 2 guys that even have streaks in terms of longest rush that are in the divisional round. It's Stevenson with a rush of 13 plus in 6 straight. And then RJ Harvey is behind him with the longest rush in 4 straight. Nobody else has a streak coming in that's on the board right now. With that said, I noticed because obviously we cover this from a fantasy angle as well, and cover all of these games. I have noticed recently that the Denver Broncos have been a little bit more bend don't break, and they've definitely been susceptible to the running back position. And they've kind of just been getting run all over from quarterbacks and running backs recently. We saw Josh Allen have 60 yards on the ground there. James Cook had a really, really strong day as well. Ramondre's coming in, and you kind of just saw that play out in slow motion. Unfortunate to Texans fans, but when it came time to close the game out, they just relentlessly gave the ball to Ramondre Stevenson over and over and over again in that final drive in the 4th quarter. Didn't ultimately get there because they still had to give the Texans one more possession. But yeah, that's the intention of how they're trying to run things. And then over the last 5 games, we've seen, I don't really count the Chiefs game that much, but we saw Travis Etienne have a 24+ yard game. We saw Josh Jacobs have a 40+ yard gain on them. James Cook had a 20+ rush on them. So yeah, not as like scary of a rushing matchup. And I think that's how New England can win this game. I'm not sure if you want Drake May throwing into this passing defense.
Jessica Brown was saying that May's rushing yards is 31.5. That feels kind of high, Jared.
It is high, and it's for a good reason, I promise. This is why I like Josh Allen rushing yards as well. Now, obviously, I think that Josh Allen is Josh Allen. He's just like the running quarterback, at least in this postseason. But the Broncos have allowed, over the last 4 weeks of the regular season, as well as the playoffs, they've allowed the most rushing yards to quarterbacks. So that's why that is high. I saw something out there because May obviously has had some fumble issues. I'm curious to see if they'll give him a glove in this matchup. You saw there's some crazy stat. I'll find it and send it to you this week. If anybody wants to Google it, they can. But there was some kind of strange coincidence about how the Patriots adjusted to when Tom Brady had he did not wear a glove for the earlier part of his career, and it resulted in a lot of fumbles. For those who remember and are old enough to remember that. and then they gave him a glove and he fumbled like a fifth of the time the remainder of his career. So we'll see if Drake May can keep the turnovers. It got scary there for a moment.
And we've also got now in this revenge game against his former team, Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. It's going to be tough because you've got about a week to prepare for a game, a playoff game with a shot at going to the Super Bowl. How much of the Jarrett Stidham entering the chat impacts the Will Lutz field goals prop?
Well, on one hand, I think you have ultimate, like Peyton came out and said he had ultimate confidence in this scenario. And I think that obviously is what you're supposed to say in the media conversation. But I think at the same time, it's going to probably just end up being a spot where they end up trusting Lutz in bigger scenarios. And they've kind of leaned in on that over these playoff games and over the last part of the regular season. You also saw New England kind of just really, really focus on getting important stops on third down and trying to limit red zone opportunities. And you saw that pan out to the tune of 3 for 3 for Kaimi Fairbairn in yesterday's game. I was a little bit hesitant on that as well as weather. But yeah, I think this is a spot where when push comes to shove, I don't know how confident Denver is going to be in game scenario to go and say Stidham like 4th and 6 on the 35. Like,
it's all about as long as he could get there. He just has to get them there.
That's what I'm saying. And I think that they can get them there.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we'll see some field goals in this game.
There's a huge injury. Seahawks lose their running back, Zach Charbonnet, to the ACL. He's out, surgery, no more. Kenneth Walker, obviously, he was supposed to always be the number 1 back for the Seahawks team, but those two have been nearly impossible to handicap. We don't need to worry anymore about RB2 because we only have now RB1. Obviously, it's going to be baked into the line. What should we be looking at for Kenneth Walker?
Yeah, I feel really bad saying this now, but I was
well, that makes our job a little
My whole
easier.
team was screaming from the rooftops that Kenneth Walker is going to be a top 10 running back this year. And that did not. That was like one of my worst fantasy predictions of the season. I did not expect them to run 50-50 for like the entirety of this. And guess who I picked when it came to like flipping the coin on who to trust last week? It wasn't Kenneth Walker. And Charbonnet came into the game super, super hot last week. Both backs honestly had a great end of the regular season and postseason. So with that said, you feel relatively confident with Walker after he put up 100 rushing yards on the Rams a couple of weeks ago. Back in the week before Christmas, he had 160 actual, 164 to be exact on the scrimmage number. And I remember that was the game where I had no idea what to do with Seahawks running backs in a really, really important game. And I believe Kenneth Walker ripped off like 2 huge runs. One was a catch screen pass, and he finished with his best output of the season. You're going to get a market of like 90 rushing yards and like 120 scrimmage yards. It's probably going to be bet up, and people are going to get excited after seeing, there's definitely not going to be Charbonnet, who's probably not going to start the season either. So with that said, we kind of saw the Bears just completely run all over the Rams. That was one thing where I don't think we got enough coverage on that. Obviously a lot of Caleb stuff, a lot of DJ Moore criticism, but one thing that they did really, really well last night was they ran extremely effectively. Monungai was awesome. DeAndre Swift was able to hit the corner. And I think that if Seattle can hit the corner effectively, you could see some huge, huge runs for Kenneth Walker. 70% of the last 5 games against the Rams, these running backs have hit. And the ones that have missed, Tyler Algier missed, but we saw Bijan Robinson have a 230 scrimmage yard game against the Rams. You also saw Dowdle miss, but Hubbard did well enough in he had the 2 touchdown game against the Rams a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, it's a weak hole for them at this point, and I don't think that 1 week's going to fix that.
Who is your Super Bowl?
Well, it was Bills Rams. I think that's the story that the league wanted to paint. If you're, scripting things out now, I think you're probably looking at like, I hate to say it, but like, I think it's a fitting repeat of Seahawks Patriots. Wouldn't the league want that?
Yeah, I guess. Even though it's like, is it really? It's no one's the same anymore. Aside
Yeah.
for
I think the feel good story is Denver. I just don't know how you expect them to win in this game. I
and
don't
even
know.
if you win one, you probably get destroyed in the second. So it's
Right.
it's easier to come into game one with a new quarterback. It's much harder in game two. But hey, Nick Foles did it, and no one ever thought that would be the case. So you never know with Mr. Jarrett Stidham. We know with you though, Jared Block, you are the best. You come on every Monday and you give us the best analysis in the market. Good luck to the bets tonight in the NBA. We'll talk to you again soon, and I'm sure I'll be in touch before the NFL starts on Sunday.
Have a good one, guys.
See you, Jared. Okay, so I know that we have college football natty. So before we get to my segment with mid-major Matt, let's talk some propaganda. These are the most bet on props at BetMGM for tonight's college football playoff game. Fernando Mendoza under 15.5 rushing yards. Mendoza over passing yards. Mendoza over passing touchdowns. Charlie Becker over 2.5 receptions. Roman Hemby over 62.5 rushing yards. So if you would like to fade the public, those are the props to fade. And if you want some NBA propaganda, Wemby over rebounds plus assists. Jaylen Brown over PRA. Zubats over 13.5 rebounds plus assists. Julian Champagne, I can never say his name, over 11.5 points. And Nick Claxton under rebounds plus assists. So those are the most bet on props of the day over at BetMGM. This segment was recorded on Friday, and I think it's going to play. I hope it's going to play. I just uploaded it, so hopefully it works. If you want more college football action, props, sides, totals, this is our segment with Mid-Major Matt. College football playoff, Monday. You can't come on shows really anymore on Monday, so we haven't spoken too much about it yet, except Andy Lang, who came on, who's a big IU fan. Indiana, Miami, that game, January 19th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. IU's laying a pretty hefty number for a natty, around 8.5. Is it too many points?
I think it is. These are two of the slowest.
No one wants to believe in Miami, even now.
Well, so I think everybody, because there's this stupid thing going around that everybody's somehow, ooh, is this an all-time team in college football history? This is not even a top 20 all-time college football team. This is not even, they're very good, don't get me wrong, but the all-time teams don't have close games at Iowa and a close game against ODU in week 1. It's a very good team, don't get me wrong. But like Miami, the reason why this game's going to be close in my mind, these are two of the slowest teams in the country. They both average around 30 seconds per play, 29 seconds or so per play. There's not going to be a ton of possessions in this game. And to me, all Miami has to do is score, 17 points, I think, and they can cover this number. Now, look, Indiana can outclass them. They can win 24-10. Kurt Signetti could have the best game plan of all time, and this game could be a blowout. But I really think there's not going to be a lot of possessions in this game. I have one wager so far. I took over 13.5 points for Indiana in the first half. Miami's going to be without one of their corners due to that terrible targeting penalty in the second half of the last game. I think Indiana takes advantage of it. If you can bet like Fernando Mendoza to have a first half touchdown, I'd look at it. I think Indiana's going to come out firing through the air early to take advantage of it. That's not to say Miami doesn't have a good secondary in general, but like I think Indiana early is going to try and throw all over Miami. So when it got to 13.5, I took a little bit on DraftKings for the over for the first half. I don't know. I'm still working through all the stuff. The guy that I like player prop wise is Charlie Becker, who is the third wide receiver for Indiana. He's a guy that's come on as of late. He's had 2 catches in each of the 2 playoff games, but he's had long receptions. There's like 30 yards plus, I think, in each game. He's a guy that has developed a lot of chemistry with Fernando Mendoza, and I think a lot of attention is going to go to Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt. JMU guy, thank you. Not a safety hazard. But I think Charlie Becker is going to have a nice game in this contest. So his number is 2.5 reception-wise. I think I'm going to play over 2.5 here. I got to find a place where the juice is reasonable. But I like Charlie Becker. I think if there's an MVP sort of bet, Mendoza's probably going to win. But if he doesn't, Charlie Becker might be a guy who gets involved a lot in this game.
Again, that was from Friday's show with Mid-Major Matt. I don't do college football, but I know it's the big story of the day. So I wanted to make sure that everybody got their college football fix here on the show today. I don't have anything for you. I need to rewire my brain in the NBA because it absolutely crushed me last week. I don't know if you guys saw, though, in the NFL. Let me see if I still have the picture. In the NFL, we are, is this the picture? Look at this. 11-2. 11-2 in the NFL playoffs. You can follow me at Pickett Sports, at Ariel Epstein, at the Prop Queen at Pickett, and you'll see that I am 11-2 in the NFL playoffs, but I sucked in the NBA last week. It sucked all the money I made out of me, so I am taking a little bit of a break. I'm going to try to figure out tomorrow how to be a little bit better and get back to my NBA winning ways because I used to crush the NBA, but I have been neglecting it a bit because it's a really hard, challenging, annoying league to handicap. Good luck to all your bets tonight. College football playoff, the Natty. Good luck to anyone who has Miami, and good luck to anyone who's laying it with Indiana. Hope you got some profitable props from the show today and NBA. I don't think I'm going to do a show tomorrow. I have some other stuff to do, but I will keep you posted. Definitely will be back on Wednesday, and we'll go right into NFL. For anyone that doesn't know, at thepropqueen.com, I've been giving out those guides and cheat sheets, and that is super helpful, and it's why one of the big reasons that process, the Prop Queen method, is a huge reason why I am 11-2 in the NFL playoffs. If you follow a method and a process that works, then you will be profitable long term. And that's exactly what the Prop Queen method is over at the propqueen.com newsletter, where I give you all those guides, cheat sheets, and really helpful resources that come straight from me. No AI, no algorithms, just straight info from me and my hours of research. So go check out the propqueen.com newsletter. Subscribe to the YouTube page. It's super helpful if you do. We are on the rise at the YouTube. So my goal is to hit like 10K or something. Maybe I should strive for like 50K. I feel like the ceiling's the roof. 50K. We want 50K by the end of the year. I think we could pop off. Let's pop off. I will see you guys probably on Wednesday. Good luck to your bet.